Hello, everyone. In case you're missing class today, I wanted to take you through what we're going to be doing in class. I know there were quite a few of you who were actually going to be out with the Connections crew working on Pride Camp. So I wanted to make sure we got this taken care of. So, first things first, remember that you always want to make sure that you are checking daily class plans with links to see what's going on in class today. And if you look at today's class plans, you will see that we're going to be continuing discussing the rhetorical analysis question on the timed right. And then we're going to be working with Is Google Making Us Stupid? So let's start with the rhetorical analysis timed right. So yesterday we talked a little bit about what to do and how to prepare for the timed right. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what the timed right consists of, like the essay when you're done with it, and how to actually write the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. So let's get started with that. So first of all, we're going to be working on what's called a funnel introduction. You've probably been taught this before in your English classes. So funnel introduction begins with some sort of general statement and then kind of limits that statement down, links to the topic, and then has a specific statement at the end. So I want you to begin with some sort of attention getter dealing with the subject of the work. So for example, who invented white people? If you're doing a rhetorical analysis of that, you want to begin with some sort of attention getter that deals with the subject of race relations in our country. If you were doing a timed right that dealt with I just want to be average, Mike Rose, then you want to do an attention getter that has something to do with schools and how schools sort students according to ability level or future. I don't want you to use questions, no rhetorical questions at all, because kids always use them incorrectly. And so to avoid that altogether, no question for your attention getter. All right, so then you want to start whatever that attention getter is. You can do a statistic, a famous quote, whatever it is that has something to do with the topic. Then start to make it more specific to the idea found in the reading, and then link the idea to the reading specifically. So in that moment, you'll be giving the title of the piece and the author's name in that introduction. And then you're going to go right into your SOAP statement. Your SOAP statement is the specific statement. It's the thesis statement for your timed right. This is something that you can prepare in advance for each of the 3 potential essays that you're going to be writing your timed right on, because you know the specific subject matter. You can come up with an attention getter. You can make it specific to the reading. You can have your introduction basically completed before you come to class for each of the 3 readings, because none of this information would change based on what passage you were given. The only information that would change would be in the SOAP statement, the three specific rhetorical strategies that you're going to be discussing in the essay. Okay, body paragraphs. It's going to be 3 or 4 paragraphs, and it kind of depends on how you structure it. The first way is the way that we did that pre-assessment in class, where we broke Abigail Adams' writing into 3 different sections. So you take the writing, you divide it into sections, you determine the purpose of each section, and then what strategies does the author use to accomplish the specific purpose of that section. You want to make sure you have textual support, which would be quotes that show that strategy in use. And then you always want to explain how it supports the overall purpose or why that strategy is effective to the audience. Now, if you do structure 2 over here on this side, structure 2 asks you to divide your passage by rhetorical strategy. So you pick out 3 rhetorical strategies, and then you explain this rhetorical strategy did this. This is why it's effective to the audience or the purpose. And so you take each paragraph becomes a focus on a specific rhetorical strategy. If you choose structure 2, you want to make sure that you're writing about the rhetorical strategies in the order they appear in the essay. Don't begin discussing a rhetorical strategy that you only find in the last paragraph. Begin at the beginning and work your way through the end. Okay, finally, the conclusion, a short conclusion on the AP exam is the best conclusion. Could be just a sentence or 2. You want to spend time on the analysis instead and not worry about a conclusion. So in when we work on revising these, I'll help you with making good conclusions that will work for your draft one, but it's kind of like your final appeal. So you want to end with a final rhetorical thrust in an argumentative essay, but in a rhetorical analysis, the writer ends with a holistic assessment of the author's impact on his or her audience. So what happened as a result of the author finishing the work, or how is it relevant to today? Think about those big picture questions. Do not summarize what you wrote in the essay. That's an immature way of dealing with conclusions. And we'll talk more about that during the school year because conclusions tend to be the most difficult for kids. Okay, the last one I wanted to show you is a student example of a conclusion for Abigail Adams. So here's a conclusion. Abigail Adams wrote this letter in a very uncertain time in American history. She was unaware not only that her husband and son would one day become president, but also that the office of president would even exist. She wrote to her son in desperate hope that by raising him well, she could ensure a bright future for her beloved homeland. So this is a two-sentence or three-sentence conclusion that really touches to the crux of why this rhetorical piece is important, because of the people involved, that they were became president of the United States, and that it was such an uncertain time that they didn't even know that such a role would exist at all. So it's a good way of concluding, and it's very simple. So you want to think about that. You could discuss how it's relevant to today, but for this particular historical example, it may not have relevance for today. Instead, you want to talk about what kind of impact might that have had in the future. Okay, let's take a look at what else we're going to do today in class. Remember, when you are writing this rhetorical strategy, that you are not writing from your perspective. You're writing from the writer's perspective, meaning we don't want to hear what you believe about the topic. We want to understand why the author chose the things that he did. So why did the author do the things that he did? All right. So that's the first thing that we did today, discuss the rhetorical analysis question. Then we're going to move on to, is Google making us stupid? And I want you to submit your SOAP statement that I asked you to do as homework last night. And you'll see in the upper right-hand corner right here in Schoology, SOAP statement, is Google making us stupid? Remember, you click on that. On the right-hand side here, you'll see some people already submitted. On the right-hand side, you'll see the submit button. Click that. Go to the Create tab. Write your SOAP statement in there and then submit it. Okay. Next thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be breaking the class up into 5 different groups. And the 5 different groups are going to be looking at, is Google making us stupid, to find evidence within that the author uses to support his or her argument. So once we discuss like a good SOAP statement for the overall piece, once people submit their SOAP statements, then we're going to think, okay, this is the purpose, this is the audience. Now let's find evidence that supports the purpose or the audience. So I'm going to separate kids into 5 different groups in class today. Group 1 is going to search for scientific statistical evidence. Group 2, historical. Group 3, authoritative, meaning that they bring in, the author brings in authorities on the topic to discuss the information. Anecdotal evidence, which is telling stories from your life or from someone else's life. And then analogical or stylistic elements is the final group. And then everybody's going to go to this Padlet link right here, and they are going to be inserting the evidence that they found in the piece that focuses on those different pieces of evidence. And I'm going to ask people to try to find like 3 examples of each type of evidence. Some of them are easier to find than others in this particular reading. So when you are looking at this after we've had class, you can go into that Padlet link down there and you can see what some of the class's answers were. Okay. The last thing that I'm going to be sharing with the class is information about the homework assignment. Is Google making us stupid? That's the first reading that might be a potential on your timed right. The second one is small change, or why the revolution will not be tweeted. And that's on page 168, of your 50 essays book, this book right here. So when you read that, I want you to prepare a SOAP statement, and then I want you to watch this video, Recognizing Shift in Rhetoric. This video is a video that I recorded, so it's me talking. And if you get back into Schoology in your AP Classroom and Review Videos Notes assignment, you will see that on this assignment, it is recognizing shift in rhetoric, one of the videos here. So when you watch that video, write down a few notes, what you knew already and what you learned about that video. And then think about that reading, small change, and kind of figure out where you think there are shifts occurring based on the information that I gave you in recognizing shift in rhetoric. Okay, that is what we are doing in class and also preparing you for homework. When you come to school on Monday, we'll be discussing small change and reviewing some of the stuff with shifts in rhetoric to kind of help you a little bit more with understanding shifts. Okay, I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you in class on Monday.